The Disappearance at Alder Creek, Colorado. Population, 2,200. A quiet mountain town where the tallest buildings are church steeples and the air smells of pine and wood smoke. It's the kind of place where summers are spent fishing in the river, where the general store sells everything from hiking boots to postcards, and where almost everyone knows your name. In the summer of 1994, the town was just as peaceful as it had always been, until the evening of July 12th. That was the night Emma Caldwell, a bright 17-year-old with a summer job at Mason's General Store, was last seen walking home. A familiar route, Emma's walk home was short, a little over a mile from the store to her family's small cabin on the east side of town. The route took her down Main Street, across the Alder Creek Bridge, and then along a quiet dirt road lined with wildflowers and pine. She had taken that walk dozens of times. Neighbors often waved to her from their porches. But that night, no one saw her reach the cabin. The first alarm, when Emma didn't come home for dinner, her mother assumed she'd stopped to visit a friend. But by nightfall, when there was still no sign of her, the family called the sheriff's office. Within an hour, the town's volunteer search group had gathered, flashlights in hand, calling her name into the night. The search stretched through the weekend. The riverbanks were checked, forest trails combed, and every shed and barn in town opened. No sign, no clothing, no tracks. It was as if Emma Caldwell had simply stepped out of sight. The lone witness. Only one person claimed to have seen her that night. A man named Daniel Royce, who was driving home from the sawmill, told deputies he'd passed Emma on the Alder Creek Bridge around 8:15 p.m. She had been carrying her backpack from the store, and he said she looked like she was in a hurry. But after that moment, no one else could place her. A mystery that faded. As the years passed, the case grew cold. Some townspeople believed she'd run away. Others thought she might have slipped near the river after dark. But there was no evidence either way. For nearly 3 decades, the disappearance of Emma Caldwell remained Alder Creek's quiet heartbreak, a question with no answer. Until the summer of 2023, when a backpack was found tangled in driftwood 6 miles downstream. When a mystery lingers for decades, sometimes the best way forward is to go back to the very last moments we know happened. In Emma Caldwell's case, that meant retracing the route from Mason's General Store to the small cabin she called home. The route revisited on the night of July 12, 1994. Emma left the store just after 8 p.m. The owner, Carl Mason, recalled her cheerful goodbye and the jingle of the front door closing behind her. From there, she would have walked down Main Street, past the row of hanging flower baskets, and the old movie theater with its sun-faded marquee. The first landmark on her way home was Alder Creek Bridge, a narrow, wooden-planked span that crossed the river before the road split into 2 directions, one toward the east side cabins, the other toward the forest trails. The witness revisited in 1994, Daniel Royce's account placed Emma on that bridge at around 8:15. He told deputies she appeared to be moving quickly, her backpack slung over one shoulder, and that she gave a small wave as his truck passed. What Royce never mentioned in his original statement, and what came out in a recent follow-up interview, was that Emma wasn't alone on the bridge. The detail that changed everything: Royce now recalls a second figure, a few paces behind her, far enough away that he didn't think much of it at the time. Could have been another walker, he told investigators, or someone heading toward the West Trail. I didn't know it might matter. The figure was wearing a light-colored jacket, but Royce couldn't say if it was a man or woman. Why it was missed back in 1994, Alder Creek's sheriff's office had only a few deputies. The focus was on the immediate search, the trails, the riverbanks, and checking in with Emma's friends. Small details, like another person on the bridge, didn't seem urgent compared to the possibility that she had simply gotten lost or had an accident nearby. Connecting the past to the present, no. With the backpack found in 2023, the timeline matters more than ever. If someone else was near Emma that night, they may have been the last person to see her alive or the first to know what really happened. The Alder Creek River begins high in the mountains, cutting through the pine forests before winding past the town that bears its name. Every spring, the melting snow sends water rushing down into its bends and eddies, carrying with it branches, leaves, and sometimes things long forgotten. The discovery in May of 2023, two hikers were making their way along a stretch of riverbank 6 miles downstream from town. The water was low after a dry winter, and tangled in the roots of a fallen cottonwood, they spotted something caught among the driftwood, a faded canvas backpack. It was partially unzipped, its straps frayed and stiff from years of weather. Identification. The hikers turned the pack in to the Alder Creek Sheriff's Office. Within days, it was confirmed. The backpack belonged to Emma Caldwell. The store's logo, once bright red, was now a muted rust color, but still visible on the front pocket. Contents of the pack inside were a few small items. A spiral notebook with several water-damaged pages, a pen, a small paperback novel, and one unusual item, a single postcard, its front showing a photograph of Alder Creek Bridge at sunset. The back of the postcard was blank, except for a small hand-drawn symbol in pencil, a circle with 3 short lines radiating from its top. Theories emerge. Investigators couldn't determine exactly how the backpack ended up so far downstream. Some believed it had fallen into the water near town during the search. In 1994, others suspected it was placed there, deliberately, perhaps far from where Emma had actually gone missing. As for the symbol on the postcard, no one in the sheriff's office recognized it. It wasn't part of any known local business logo or trail marking. A lead from the past. When the postcard image was shown to older residents, one man, a retired park ranger named George Latham, paused before saying, "I've seen that before." It was carved into the railing on the west end of the bridge. Back in the summer of '94, the west side of Alder Creek is mostly forest, steep hillsides, narrow trails, and a scattering of old hunting cabins from decades past. Some have been kept up by families for generations. Others have been left to the weather. One of those abandoned cabins was about half a mile from the bridge, and according to retired park ranger George Latham, it had a strange history of its own. The cabin connection Latham remembered finding the same symbol from the postcard, a circle with 3 short lines, carved into the doorframe of the cabin back in the '90s. It wasn't deep, but it had been done carefully, as though it meant something to whoever left it there. In the summer of 2023, Latham agreed to take deputies and Clara, the podcast host, to see it for themselves. Inside the cabin smelled of dust and pine sap. Light filtered through warped shutters, casting narrow bands across the single room. Along one wall was an old iron stove, and beside it, a loose floorboard. When Latham pried it up, he found a shallow compartment containing a bundle of folded paper wrapped in a strip of cloth. The letters inside were 3 short letters, written in neat but slightly uneven handwriting. They were unsigned, but one began with the words, "E. If you're reading this, it means you found the mark." The letters spoke about meeting at the bridge after closing and keeping the circle a secret until the right time. There were no names, no dates, just references to places in Alder Creek only a local would know. Why this matters? For the first time, investigators had physical evidence linking the symbol to a possible meeting place, and to someone who seemed to be communicating directly with Emma. It wasn't proof of what happened, but it suggested Emma may have been on her way to meet someone that night, rather than simply walking home. Sometimes, in a small town, a memory lingers in the back of someone's mind for years, half forgotten, until the right detail brings it back in full. For retired park ranger George Latham, that detail was the circle and line symbol, found in the letters from the cabin. The memory in July 1994, 2 nights before Emma Caldwell vanished, Latham had been patrolling the West Trail near dusk. He was checking for campers in restricted areas when he spotted 2 people standing by the base of the Alder Creek Bridge. One of them was Emma. The other, a person in a light-colored jacket, was leaning over the wooden railing, carving something into it with a pocket knife. Why he didn't report it, at the time, it didn't seem unusual. Teenagers sometimes met up near the bridge after hours, and as long as they weren't damaging the structure too badly, Latham didn't interfere. But the carving he saw that evening, a circle with 3 short lines, was the exact same mark found on the postcard and inside the cabin. The significance. This meant the symbol wasn't just a private code between 2 people. It had been physically placed along Emma's route home, and possibly used as a signal or meeting point. Latham told deputies, "If I'd known what would happen 2 days later, I'd have stopped them. I just thought it was another summer evening." A new theory: investigators began to suspect that Emma's disappearance was connected to someone she knew and trusted. The symbol might have been a way to mark places or times when they planned to meet. A plan that, for reasons unknown, never went as intended on July 12, 1994. Nearly 30 years after Emma Caldwell's disappearance, the pieces finally began to fit together. The backpack found downstream, a postcard with the strange symbol, the hidden letters in the cabin, and the old ranger's memory, all pointed to one possibility. Emma had been on her way to meet someone that night. The reconstructed timeline, 8:05 p.m. Emma leaves Mason's General Store, heading toward the Alder Creek Bridge, 8:15 p.m. Witness Daniel Royce sees her on the bridge, with another figure following several paces behind. Shortly afterward, Emma likely turns onto the West Trail, away from her direct path home, heading toward the old cabin. The meeting that never ended. Investigators believe the person Emma planned to meet was the same one who had carved the symbol into the bridge and cabin. The letters suggested secrecy, a shared understanding that whatever they were doing was not meant to be known by others. Something may have gone wrong during that meeting, an argument, a change of plans, or an accident. The backpack's journey. If the cabin was the meeting place, the river's proximity could explain the backpack's discovery. A slip near the bank, or the bag being dropped into the current intentionally, would carry it far downstream over time. The fact that the postcard was still inside suggested it had been there from the start, not placed in the bag years later. Why the case went cold in 1994, without the backpack, letters, or symbol. The disappearance looked like countless others. A person simply gone, with no signs pointing to where or why. The detail of the second figure on the bridge never made it into the official record, and without it, there was no immediate suspicion of foul play. The most likely truth, while there is still no definitive answer, the evidence now suggests Emma's final steps were not random. She was drawn to the West Trail by someone she knew, someone who shared a secret code with her. Whether she intended to return home that night, no one can say. But the river has a way of holding on to its mysteries and releasing them only when the time is right. A town remembers in Alder Creek today. The bridge still stands. A small plaque has been placed at its east end, in memory of Emma Caldwell. May your path be forever in the light. The symbol, long since weathered away, is no longer visible on the railing. But for those who know the story, its meaning will never fade.